Let's go have some fun. Welcome to Val's Sweet Kitchen. I must have made this custard recipe 100 times. It is the perfect take on the classic English custard tart. Thank you, Mr. Wareing, for posting your recipe. I've adapted it for the home baker, and in the description, I posted all the American measurements. You take all your ingredients, 225 grams of flour, and add the zest of 1 lemon, 150 grams of butter, and 75 grams of sugar. And you rub them together with your fingers. And then assemble into your tart pan, just like my video on tart shells shows. The only difference between Mr. Wareing's method and my method is he rubs together all the dry ingredients. I use a food processor. Hope that's okay, Mr. Wareing. So just as shown in my video, when it gets to the consistency of breadcrumbs, you're going to add your egg and egg yolk and mix that all together too. Mix it until it just comes together in a dough. Mr. Wareing wraps his tart shell dough and chills it for 2 hours in the refrigerator. And here's a trick for getting it into your pan. Scoot it underneath. I'm going through the rest of the shell steps a little fast here, so see my video to get lots of tips for the perfect shell. Roll out your pastry to 2 millimeters or just over 1/16 of an inch. If you have that skill, you go right on. Little over 1/8 of an inch works for me. And make sure everything conforms into the flutes. You can just feel with your fingers. Poke holes with a fork and place parchment paper or commercial grade cling film inside the tart and fill with baking beans or rice. Blind bake for 15 minutes or until the edges start turning a golden brown. Then remove the beans and bake for 5 more minutes to dry out the shell where the paper. While the tart shell's cooling, let's make our custard filling. Take 500 milliliters of heavy cream and heat that up to boiling. And while we're waiting for that to boil, we're going to take our sugar and 9 egg yolks and whisk those together. Mr. Wareing uses castor sugar in his recipe, and you can make castor sugar at home. All it is sugar that's a little bit more fine than regular granular sugar, but not as fine as powdered sugar. So just take your sugar, put it in a food processor, and give it a whiz. I find that I can get the same results just using regular sugar here. In America, boiling is about 150 degrees. Careful not to let the cream scald on the bottom of the pan. There we go. This is called tempering. You're going to bring just a little bit of the cream into the eggs to loosen them up. Pour the whole thing in there. This brings the yolk temperature up to the cream temperature so you don't end up with scrambled eggs. And just to make sure we didn't make any scrambled eggs, we're going to pass it through a sieve, a fine mesh sieve. Pour your custard into the tart shell when the tart shell is in the oven. But also sprinkle generously with nutmeg. Mr. Wareing would use freshly grated, which is not available in my grocery store, so I'm using ground nutmeg. and bake for 30 to 40 minutes. If it's not done after 40 minutes, put it in and check every 5 minutes. You know it's done when it has this much of a wobble. And Mr. Wareing's recipe calls for a 7-inch pan, but I only have a 9-inch, so I just pipe some chantilly cream around the edges and call it a day. Chantilly cream is a fancy word for whipped cream. Utterly delightful. I hope you found value in this video. If you did, give it a like and subscribe to my channel. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And thank you, Marcus Wareing, for publishing your recipe.